the importance of dance in the satanic rituals in Hollyweird. That is the conversation we're going to be having today, you guys, because I don't think people realize, it's something I honestly realized more so after the fact, is prevalent about dance. People don't realize how dance and movement is such an important part of the demonic kingdom. And that's quite one of the most simplest reasons for that, is because when demons are come upon people, possess, whatever words you want to use, I don't want to use possess, let's say demonized for all intents and purposes. When a demon comes upon you, they overtake you, and when they're invoking themselves inside of you, and they usually display themselves. Because the thing about the kingdom of darkness is kind of like how, now that people are seeing a lot of information about a lot of people coming out, they're realizing that there's all these signs that we miss. That's the thing. Demons, they can't hide themselves. They can't hide who they are. They can't hide how they are. How they are and who they are will always come to the surface, because ultimately, if you don't understand where all this is coming from, go and check out my Noah's Ark playlist. I did a whole playlist reading through all of Noah. I did a whole explanation about the Nephilim, the giants, where do I believe demons came from. Go and check all of that if you're not sure. If you're not ready for that, go start with the Bible summary series, where I summarize the entirety of the Bible, and then go into that, right? So those of you who've been here for long enough, you've seen those, so you know where all this stuff comes from, okay? So yeah, so these demons, they invoked, and there's different things we can do to invoke demons in our lives, so one thing is our physical actions. Another thing is, things like music and things like movement, you know what I'm saying? And especially with dance, because I'll tell you, as a dancer, right, and I think this was honestly a good thing, even though it was not comfortable for me. I was never the dancer I ever wanted to be. Like, I was never close to the dancer I ever wanted to be. And I never understood it, because, like, growing up when I was a teenager, and so I always talk about, like, my decision to go to university, because for me that was a hugely pivotal moment in my life. Those days I used to dance for hours. I couldn't afford to pay for all these classes. So I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos of dance. But then when I got into the industry, I just never felt like I could do it. You know what I mean? And what I realized in retrospect now, in hindsight, is that all that time, as much as I achieved what I did, I never did the best that I'm capable of, but I did enough, I was not able to just like give in to something. And when I say give in, what I mean is, like, it's so weird. I'm sounding like such a creative hippie, which is so not normal for me, talking usually about science and maths. But, like, what I mean is, like, when you're doing anything creative, you have to give in, and you have to give your all. When you see the best dancers, and I can tell when you can see it, because they give in, like, everything that's within them. They give into whatever they're giving themselves into. And I couldn't give myself in, like, to whatever it was. And I'm honestly grateful in hindsight, like I said, because I believe that I shouldn't have been giving myself into what I was needing to give myself into to be where I needed to be at the time. And that the conflict I was having within myself was actually because I was having a moral conflict of, like, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to, I don't think this is, like, what I should do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like I'm supposed to lose myself, like, in this, because that's what dancers do. Like, as a dancer, I'll speak specifically as a dancer, because I don't know about the rest. Singing, I'm very new to, like, complete novice. So I have so far to go with singing. Like, I'm just literally the most novice of all novices. I can basically barely hold a tune, so I'm just giving myself completely, like, so to the idea of dance, you got to, like, give yourself in. Like, to be good, you got to give your body, give your spirit, give your mind and soul, and just let the music take over you, right? And I never really thought about that too deeply until I'm thinking about this now. And I'm just thinking about, like, this, it was all started with the Diddy dance, but then it's also other experiences that I've had, and, like, where my best choreographies would always come from, like, an experience where I've given into some kind of feeling, like, I've given into it, like, in my mind. And it's not a good thing unless it's the right thing that you're giving yourself into. And I realized that those things, when you entertain them, it's like demons and the devil like are always knocking at your door. That's why I keep using that as a phrase. Like they're always knocking at your door. That's why the Bible says, resist the temptation. Like resist the devil and he shall flee. Resist him. He's going to knock. It's the same thing he says to Cain in the Bible. He says, after the whole situation, he says, Cain, if you try again, you too can be regarded. But if you do not, listen, sin is knocking at your door. There is a knock at your door, right? Do not give in. Don't give in. And that's what I realized was like the conflict that was happening in the industry with me and the industry. Like I couldn't give in to the energy that was around me. You know what I mean? I couldn't give in because it was something I couldn't be a part of. And the people that were a part of it were willing to like give in to this thing. But this thing, it was so demonic. And this thing, like I would see these routines. I remember, you guys, a lot of people won't remember this, but I remember because this was the time when I was choreographing for competition teams as well, when this happened. So I'm a choreographer, like choreographing for competition. And I'm not like some big choreographer. I'm just choreographing for my humble little competition team at my university, which is still kind of a big deal, to be honest. Anyways, so I'm observing everybody because I'm a studier. So like for me, I was like, I'm going to study everyone. I'm going to watch everyone. I'm going to watch what everybody's doing. And I remember specifically that it was at this exact time that there was a huge turning point in the dance industry that people didn't really necessarily, people today might not know where this came from, but I remember this also very well. So the dance team was Royal Family, right? Led by Paris Goebel. Now, to let you guys know what routines you probably know by Paris Goebel, like who she choreographed for. She choreographed Justin Bieber's Yummy. Girl, you got that yummy, yummy, which everybody's like saying is a bit sketch. Now they're like, is it Yummy or Young Me? Another story for another day. She also choreographed Rihanna at the Super Bowl. She choreographed Rihanna at the Super Bowl. She also choreographed Level Up by Sierra, right? So she's choreographed a lot of things as of then. All of these things happened prior to what I'm about to tell you. Afterwards, afterwards, right? Because what I'm about to tell you happened was years before, because this is when I was still a university student, right? So she does this routine, and she has a team called Royal Family. I believe they're from New Zealand. And they do this routine, and it's the first ever time you see guys like doing you see like how it's really popular for a lot of men now to dance, like a lot of, especially the gays, theys, whatever's, to now dance in a super duper feminine way. That routine, she had a section that would traditionally, prior to that moment, prior to that video, it would have been seen as a girls' choreo, because what people don't know is that like back in the day, like in the beginning, like prior to this particular moment, like when you did choreography, so like when we did choreography, like there would be some times where they'll be like, okay, so the choreography would be the same, but there'd be a certain moment where the girls would do one thing and then like the guys would do like another thing, you know what I mean? And that was like because there was a distinction between the genders of like what was like the appropriate like type of dance. And also there was like a level of, I thought I loved it. Like I loved the like synergy of like, and then like everybody just hits their own part and it just looked amazing, you know? And then you would see that in a lot of the couple choreos. So like when I was growing up, like I said, I couldn't afford all these classes. I was working at McDonald's just to afford to pay for the gym and pay for like my one class a week. And so every other time I was like spending literally hours every day watching all these YouTube videos, like practicing dances. So that's why I know a lot about a lot of these dance choreographers, because that's what I grew up doing. Like I was obsessed and I enjoyed it and I loved it, and I was pushing myself because I don't know, I just loved it. And I used to think it was so cool how there'd be these sections like in the dance where like there would be like the girl, like the women would do one thing and the men would do another thing, and would do it at the same time, and it just looked crisply beautiful, delicious, gorgeous, right? And that was a thing, and that was normalized then. that like certain moves, of course the men are not going to do this, of course, whatever. I'm going somewhere with all of this, guys, just follow with me. So, you know, that was normal. So when Paris Goebel, right, decided, and she's like, you know, anyways, I'm not going to get into her, but she's an incredible choreographer, like far greater choreographer and dancer than I've ever been in my life, like far, 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 so insanely better than I could ever be. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just giving you guys my opinion as a, not as a dancer or choreographer, but as a spectator and a lover of the Lord, because I, you know, she's way, at least for what I've ever produced, she's produced far better than I ever have. Like I said, I don't think I've ever produced anything that special, to be honest, in any of my creative ventures. Anyways, so she so she's like, so she does this thing and she has the guys, they're whacking, they're doing all these like really feminine moves, and it was like, it reminds me of like there's all these specific periods in like time where one particular event that seemed like it was isolated on just one thing, like announced the arrival of a new era. So like Caitlyn Jenner coming out as transgender was like an announcement of a new era, whether we realized it or not. The day that that interview took place, all of a sudden that was just what we were doing now, like, and it became way more normal after that. Cardi B releases the song WAP. Women didn't speak about our genitalia in the same way. WAP comes out, and then all of a sudden women were not speaking about our genitalia before, now all of a sudden we're speaking about genitalia. Yada 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 yada. There's like all these specific situations where something happens and then there's this whole influx of like, we just normalize something that like the day before wasn't cool. So I remember once she did that, as soon as she did that and she had all the guys, because she had a like, it was a very like, it was like the section that would normally be all women in that section of the dance. You guys can go and search the routine. I can't remember which year it was, but if you search a Royal Family, Paris Goebel, like it's probably going to come up the first one, because it was like, that's how popular it was. It was like a movement. It was like a thing. And so the section that would normally be like all women was all guys, right? And I remember it so well. And it was to that song by Rihanna. What song? Oh yeah, it was a bitch, but I have my money, right? So excuse my language, guys, if you're offended, but I'll just whatever. Life goes on. So anyway, so that was the song. And I can remember the whole routine. I can see it in my head. And like a lot of dancers will know that as a pivotal moment. As soon as that happened, it spread like wildfire throughout the like dance community. Because I remember that when I'm now going to compete in competitions, and she did that routine with her team at World of Dance. And I will just say that choreographically and musically, that routine was absolutely insane. Like I said, I've never choreographed anything close to what she did was, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so she did all of this, yeah, and it just sparked this new thing. And I don't know what it was about that, and it's also been about my other experiences and just seeing how like things like formations, the shapes that like dancers are making because like that's those things I think about like as a choreographer. First of all, you have like the routine. This is what we're doing. And then you have like the who's doing what at what bit and how do you add levels. And then it's like, what about the formations, like the shapes that you're doing? And then I started to realize over the time that the entertainment industry is doing a lot of these things on purpose, like how they're getting the dancers to do things, the movements that they're getting to do, the demons that they're invoking in these satanic rituals, you know? And unfortunately, because dance is the nature that it is, it's so funny that I was once a dancer / choreographer and I'm now a teacher, because it's like two sides of the same coin, like a job that is like overworked and underpaid. Like dancers don't really get paid. One of the things I've spoken about for years on this channel is how people don't know how many of the dancers in the Super Bowl, for example, don't actually get paid. Like for what they did, they get told stuff like, oh, we'll give you exposure. I remember the number of times people told me, oh, you can have exposure. Like, you know, people don't get paid and in these things, but then they're participating in these like ceremonies, like I was saying, like with the whole Rihanna thing and her being in red and it being February and all of that. You guys can go watch those previous videos. Like you have Sam Smith and him doing that song Unholy, and then he had that crazy version of it, and the dances and the movements that they're doing, it's all like they're invoking demons, because there's like these things, if you look in history, there are these like movements, there are these like dances, not even just the dances, but like I said, the concept of giving yourself into something, right? The concept of completely giving yourself into something else, whether it's the music, whether it's the movement, and not knowing what it is that you're actually giving yourself into, you're coming into agreement with, right? Because like I've said before, like the whole idea with the demonic kingdom is to get you to make demonic covenants. Because if you make a demonic covenant, that's why I didn't even think about it like this, right? But until now, but like that's why in the Bible talks about Jesus being the new covenant. Like we've made the agreement of the past was the law. The agreement of now is Christ. Like you now make an agreement with Christ, and that means that you are a member of the kingdom of heaven, right? But a lot of these things, they get you to invoke this disagreement with the kingdom of darkness, because it's like, this is what we do in the kingdom of darkness, this is how we operate, like we do. That's why every time there's all these like ceremonies that are seemingly just celebrations, they have all this dance and all these things, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. People are like, why is there a dragon happening? Why are they dancing like that? Like even with the Rihanna Super Bowl performance, I thought it was so cringy. Like I'm not gonna lie, because like I've seen like if you go to like I haven't seen in American studios, and I actually will go. Well, I mean I've seen it obviously on YouTube, but I want to be in the energy space so I can feel the energy. But like I've seen the top studios in London. Like those are the studios I used to go and train at. Like a lot of the time I'll go take classes at, you know, places like Pineapple, Studio 68, Bay Studios, like the number one like studios like in the country where all the celebrities go. You find like even Jessie Nelson was even doing her rehearsals at Studio 68. Like all these places I used to go to like when I was living in London. And like you can see that people are like desperate like to get into the industry, and they're just desperate to do whatever they need to do to succeed as dancers. And obviously like as the industry looks at it, if you're hollyweird, you're like, we need these people that we can utilize for these rituals. And there's so many levels to these rituals, you know what I'm saying? And at a certain point it does get very demonic. At a certain point it gets very like we're trying to invoke something. Because even like when I would have to describe to like, so like me as a choreographer thinking how to describe my routine, like and where my routine came from, what you need to feel and think to like do it, that alone has so many layers to it. Because there's an emotion, there was something that was an expression that like came from inside of me that I'm like, that I'm trying to, that inspired this movement. That's why I told you guys that there was this one routine, and it was the most popular routine I ever did, ever. Everybody loved it. But the problem was for me, and the reason why it took me to the place where I didn't want to do it anymore, was the emotion that came behind it. And even the way that I taught it with the same emotions that I was feeling, which is negative. And like it was one of those, it was giving like the energy that I had, it was giving like male hatred. It was giving like in my head when I was choreographing it, right? This was the energy that I had in my mind, in my body, was like, if I had to get into like not a physical but a verbal altercation, like with a particular person, right? That was a male. I just want to say not my father, because everybody seems everything's daddy issues, which is really annoying. Like there's so many other men doing wrong. Can we just, you know, but anyways, this is a man I was thinking about the time. And I was thinking about getting into a verbal altercation, and I was thinking about the energy that I was feeling, about what I would really say if I could say what I had to say, and like what I would really do if I could do what I really wanted to do, because of like how this person was. Obviously I couldn't do it because I'm a woman, and I wasn't going to say anything because I would be scared for my safety. But I just invoked all of that like pure like anger, like towards a certain person, and it was as if I was about to go like, you know what I mean? And that was the energy that came into that routine. That was the energy. And so when I then now I'm teaching this dance routine, everybody loved it. Even the men, the women, they were like, wow, that's one of your best routines. It's your best routine we've seen. And I was thinking, I can't go on like this. I can't go on knowing that the way that I got to this routine was that I was there, listening to this song, feeling angry, invoking negative emotion, not even a demon at the time. And the way that I was moving, and the way that other people were seeing how I was moving, and my dancers were moving, more importantly them, because I always felt like I always felt like at the time that like the dancers always made my choreography look better than I could make it look myself. And so that's why I always identify more as a choreographer than a dancer. But anyway, so I'm looking at them and people are like, oh, that's one of your best routines. We love that. And I'm thinking that came from such a disgusting place. Because like I was in such venom, like I had such venom. And it was like one of the rare occasions I caught myself like in that place. And I just happened to be like listening to music and I just happened to decide to make a routine. And then I was thinking, no way this is the routine everybody loves. And it was forged in such ugly emotion and ugly like energy, but people were feeding off of it and you could feel the energy that I was giving off. And that's what people were enticed by. And I was just like, oh Lord. And that was like the beginnings of when I realized that like these things, like, and where they come from and what was the intention at the time actually exudes itself off onto everybody else. So like, I'll give you guys an example of one of the routines that I think is highly demonic. So you see Sam Smith, right? The artist. And I'm so sad to see how Sam Smith has ended up because he was always so good. Like, why did we have to get to where we are now? But anyways, and he has this song Unholy. And if you look at the development between him and how he started, it would just be like a guy, normal guy, t-shirt, jeans, trainers, whatever. And then like by the time he did this song Unholy, which I think is, I'm not going to get into what I think about the song Unholy, but anyway. He was dressed completely differently, and the whole dance element, like everything about the whole show factor was largely demonic. And it's these things that are like these demonic scenes, these signs of worship, in the same way that like people stand up on a Sunday service and they rate like people who are genuine. I'm not talking about the fakers who are just doing it because they want to get insta famous or they want to become Justin Bieber's pastor or they want to impress the congregation. I'm talking about the people that truly love the Lord and are raising their hands because they want to worship the Lord God Almighty, the Most High God, Yahweh, I'm saying him. The same way that we raise our hands and our voices and our talents to the Lord is the same way that in the kingdom of darkness, they raise their voices and their hands to the devil. Unfortunately in church, dance is like less of a thing these days. And when it is, sometimes it can be like super cringy. I'm not going to lie. But sometimes it can be really good as well, And it's the same with the kingdom of darkness. It's a form of worship. Like dance is a form of worship is basically what I'm getting to. Dance, music, art, everything, it's a form of worship. It's a form of expressing what's inside of you. Because if I love God, like if I think about praise and worship, like naturally, right? The reason why I like to go and sing alone with God is because I don't want to be caught up in whatever the heck else is going. If I'm going to talk to the Lord or sing with the Lord, I want to do it in private because that's part of my praise and worship. Like the words that leave my mouth, the way I live my life, the way I choose to do it, like the way I choose to speak to the Lord, that is me praising and worshiping him. In the same way, these people are praising and worshiping the devil in the hollyweird. That's what I'm trying to say. They're praising and worshiping him with this movement. They're praising and worshiping him. They're channeling, they're giving into these things that are not from God. They're not from anything good. They're from the devil. And that's why it doesn't surprise me where these routines come from. It doesn't surprise me that Paris Goebel gave into whatever. Because of course, if I completely gave into, like if I was, this is why, like if I completely gave into like everything that I could have given into, like it wouldn't have been a good story. You know what I'm saying? Like it just comes a certain point where, and that's why I feel like the conflict always was for me. I was like, I am going through X, Y, and Z, and I do feel like X, Y, and Z, but also I can't give myself into this. I can't give myself into like whatever that is. Like, I can't do it. You know what I mean? And that's what was my personal struggle. And like people would say, like if you ask people that knew me as a dancer when I last danced, even when I was a choreographer, even the beautiful, lovely ladies who were in my dance company, who honestly I wish they could have had somebody better, and they deserve so much more, and I always wish them the best. They're the most precious women. I don't know why they would have shown up to my rehearsals and my classes when they could have been showing up to anybody else in London, but they were there in my studio, and that is a blessing I will never forget, But ultimately, the thing that came down to me for it was I can't express, I can't give into that thing that I know is like this hollyweird thing of you just give in and you don't question and you just live and you just be, because that's what the devil wants you to do. Like I said to you guys, like the only scripture of the devil is do what thou wilt, do what you want, do whatever you want, don't worry about, but just do what you want. And I was like, I can't do that. There are beautiful women who are here in my personal company dancing. I can't put that on them. And second of all, I mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually could not just give in, like with my body, with my mind, and my soul, and my everything. I couldn't give in to it because I knew that it wasn't for the best. And I could see that the people that were giving in, a lot of them, they were just happy to be dancing and they didn't care if they were invoking anything, and they just overlooked what was happening. But a lot of the things, like the performance, so many elements of the performances that you guys watch are to like literally get you to a place where you are now opening doors for the kingdom of darkness in your life. You're listening to the music is calming you, and you love it and it's resonating. You're watching the dance and you're thinking that's amazing. You want to imitate the moves, you want to be a part of what they're doing. You know what I mean? You're loving the show of it all. You're loving the environment, the atmosphere that's being created, but you don't understand that the atmosphere that's being created is demonic. It's casting spells upon you. It's leading you astray. And that's what I realized, like, you know, that I'm grateful that in that sense that, you know, I was as bad at, you know, I was as I was, because I didn't click in with that. But I also did see that like dance and dances is such a key part of these things, especially when it comes to, you know, invoking these demons. You know, like I said with the yoga, like once upon a time and a long time ago, and I have to pray the Lord will forgive me in the name of Jesus and free me from anything that could have come to me because of that in the name of Jesus. But once upon a time I did this yoga class, and it was like an Egyptian yoga class, and they were all like poses in relation to the god of sun, or the god, not even the god of sun, that's not what they said, but I understood that in retrospect. I understood that in hindsight. By the time I was like, oh, we're just doing these, this is just Egyptian origin, this is just black culture, whatever. And I was like, after the fact, I was like, we're invoking demons, we're showing our allegiance. And like it goes back to that movement I was talking to you guys about Diddy, and how he's doing this weird movement, and it to me looked like he was being overcome by a demon. And the thing is just because we live in modern society, people aren't used to this type of stuff. But like for me, from my experiences, and I never understood why I was finding it all so hard, and I guess it was because now that I look back I can see it's because I was really fighting for my relationship with God more than anything at every given point. So every time I'm trying to fight for that, whilst also trying to like exist in the entertainment industry, it was never going to happen. And like I said, the things I was seeing, we had Paris Goebel do that routine with Rihanna, and the guys came out, and it was a turning point. And to this day, so much of like modern dance and like how it became, we went from this is what the guys do, this is what the girls do, and we do what we're doing in our own time. It became we all do the same routine, and if anything, sometimes the men are even doing it even better. The same girls routine, they're even doing the heels routine. Talking to one of my friends about how me and her were talking about how much we both love like dancing in heels earlier today. I love heels dancing, like to be honest, as a woman. You know, but now the guys are doing it, and they're quite good at it, a lot of them. And that's where we're at, like as a society now. Like when that started, when that first video came out, it was controversial. People were like, oh wow, that's crazy. Now it's normalized, and like this is what I'm saying. Like I'm not trying to be against anybody, and I am trying to kind of villainize that to an extent, because I just think that like you know, that's the basis level. That's just like the most basic level. When you see these music videos, when you see these performances, and you see what the dancers are doing, the dancers are dancing the way they're dancing on purpose. Like the things you're seeing, the weird movements that people do with their bodies and everything, it's all being done on purpose. They're all purposefully trying to invoke certain demons, participate in certain rituals, create certain shapes to represent certain things. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying about with yoga. Is one of the biggest problems is that like there's always like we're doing the this pose and the that pose. You're like representing these demons. and you're inviting them. And like I said, worst of all, you just give in. Like, if you just completely give in to the movement, completely give in to the vibe, that's a great thing in terms of expression in a healthy moral sense, but it's also problematic when it comes to you're just giving into the energy of the artist and like what the artist is trying to invoke. And the artist is already trying to invoke something because they're already part of an agenda, because it's Hollyweird. So now you're just all invoking this, and your dancing is only incredible, so incredible. Your dancing is becoming more incredible, I should say, because your dancing is already incredible. You worked so hard to be there, but I'm saying your dancing is more incredible because you're giving into this like energy. You're participating in the ritual. You're a soul that needed to be there to show, because like just the same way that we do things to show God our worship. I live my life in worship to the Lord. Of worship is a lifestyle. Worship, whether it's for the devil or for God, is a lifestyle. That's something I guess I'm realizing in this moment. I know that my life of worship with God isn't me stretching my hands on a Sunday. It's every day the decisions I make, how I choose to live and how I choose to represent him and how I choose to relate to him, and it's the same, what I do with my body. And it's the same with the kingdom of darkness. So when you're doing these things, you're worshiping, you're showing your worship. And that's the thing. Dance is truly a form of worship also. Not in a bad way, but it can be used in a bad way. So I just wanted to highlight that because like I see a lot of these performances and I think people will talk about Beyonce did this, Taylor Swift did that, whatever did that. But I'm like, pull away the dancers and see if that performance was as powerfully whatever you think it was as it was, whether you think it's good or bad. Was it as powerfully as good or as powerfully as offensive? Those characters, the dancers and the dancing element is what's also elevating and helping to further induce more strongly whatever it is that they're trying to do. I just want people to be aware of that because like I said, I was in the industry. I found it really tough. I never really understood at the time. I always assumed it was just like, it doesn't matter what I assumed, but, I couldn't really click. And then I realized that, in hindsight, I don't think what I was going on in my mind and things I was going through, that was something I should have been giving myself into anyway, because it wasn't good and it wasn't for the glory of God and it wasn't for the benefit of myself, but definitely sure would have been for the benefit of the industry, which of course is always telling you as a choreographer, like I told you guys before, like, oh, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. And it's like, but I can't do that morally, but they want you to. Because they need it. They need that to be a part of the movement of whatever. And people, Christians, talk about, and dance like David danced. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting thought that David danced. Interesting thought, isn't it? That David played the lyre and he danced and he became king and the son of Solomon. Interesting thought, isn't it? It's almost as if that these creative endeavors, these creative things are quite powerful when it comes to the kingdom of heaven. And people know that because I'm like, did the devil was the leader of the Lord's, whatever people say, in terms of music. Yes, he was a musician, whatever. Yeah, so let's be aware. That's why let's be aware of that and let's be aware of what the power of that does. Because the same way that like a song can meet you and just hit in the same way that you understand, a song can also take you from somewhere you went to somewhere different. And that could be a positive or a negative. Anyways, you guys are going to leave it there. I've been talking for forever. If life's the game, let's play to win. Let me know you guys' thoughts. I know this is such a strange video, like, but I'm just telling you my honest, like, this is just my honest thoughts. Like, this is just my honest thoughts. Like, I'm just honest with you guys. I'm just honest and I'm just authentic. Like, I wish I could be a better, like, Christian. I wish I could represent better, a better woman. I wish I could be more consistent. I wish I could be better. I can only give you guys the best that I have. And I know that the Lord anyways loves, and then I know that the Lord only asks the best of me. So I trust in that, even though I know the world is freaking a brutal place and nobody gives a crap about your best and everyone's going to just judge you for everything. And, not everybody, not you guys, but basically everybody else. But you get the gist. I'm doing my best. I love you guys so much. I'm sharing everything with you because I want us to grow and I want us to do better. So if life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.